Hello and welcome to the Wolves Report. I'm Ryan Lester and thank you for joining us for episode 113. Tonight we'll be giving you our match and player analysis from the two defeats in a row away at Everton and West Ham. We're going to talk about the news that Gary O'Neill is staying for now. Maybe. Yes, he is. Who knows what Jeff's thinking. We're going to talk about the management of our football club, or the mismanagement, whichever your interpretation is. Take your questions and look ahead to an enormous game on Saturday. It's not El Sacchio, I don't even know what it is. Looking ahead to Wolves v Ipswich on Saturday afternoon at Molineux at 3 o'clock. I hope you are feeling festive. Nocky, take us back a week to where it ended. Everton 4, Wolverhampton Wanderers 0.
Do I have to?
Yes.
All right. It was just a joke, wasn't it? It was just an utter shambles. Tactically, positionally, everything was just an absolute mess. It was wrong from the kick. And to be fair, we had about 4 minutes when we were putting them under pressure, and then
at the start of the game, we were all right.
Yeah, we conceded a free kick, not even on the edge of the box, and Ashley Young, who's scored about 5 goals this entire career, it's the worst free kick you've ever seen. And Sarr manages to dive over it 1-0, and they gave up. I think they gave up. They stopped playing. They stopped working. They were finding space all over the pitch. It was just an utter disaster. I mean, I predicted us to lose the game. So the result was what I thought it would be, but the performance absolutely wasn't. We were butchered all over the pitch. I mean, we conceded 4 set pieces to go along with the 3 set pieces we conceded against Bournemouth, and then the 2 set pieces against West Ham. Just, we're not learning. We're not learning from our mistakes. I mean, they had a fifth that was disallowed from a set piece as well. We're just repeating the same mistakes every week. But I think that my biggest take from it was that they gave up, that the heads dropped as soon as the first goal at the back of the net. We were second to everything defensively, midfield, couldn't win any loose balls. We were just utterly outplayed and dominated all over the pitch. And, you know, Gary spent most of his time playing, I don't know, roadblocks on his tablet. He didn't make any adjustments to the team, didn't make any adjustments to the system. He just let it play out, and it was awful to see. It was such a weak performance, and we spoke before that for Wolves to get results, we need our big players to play, and there was too many that just didn't turn up on the day. So, yeah, really, really wretched performance and a deserved hammering. I think we probably got away with 4-0. And I think that one of the most telling things was the supporters, because they were singing their hearts out. There was noise booming down from the stands, but it was almost an air of acceptance that this is probably curtains for us now. So they had a bit of a sing-song and they backed the team right to the end. And then obviously there was a few pelters fired at O'Neill, which, you know, you can't blame anyone for that. But just a really, really poor day and a very sobering evening, I'd say.
Tyler, I mean, it's definitely as bad as it's been as under O'Neill, but would you say that is that our lowest point in the Premier League since we've been back?
Yeah, 100%. You're talking about one of the poorest sides I've seen in the last couple of years in Everton. I think they'd gone 4 games without scoring, and then we shipped 4. And like Nocky said, it was the manner of it, wasn't it? It was a bit of a capitulation and a collapse, and 5 or 6 wouldn't have really done any discredit to the scoreline. Yeah, we started brightly, and if you score the first goal, who knows? But the players looked extremely fragile, didn't they? And, you know, we've talked about it where we're going game by game, week by week. But if you're judging that as a standalone performance, how there were still people saying that we're good enough to stay up and, you know, we've got enough about the squad, I think that probably answered the questions, really, because that was poor. And it reminded me of, I think I've sort of said it, you know, even that Mick McCarthy game against the Albion where it was just a capitulation. We gave up. I said it about the Bournemouth game. I'll say it about that game. And it's a trend. And we'll come on to West Ham, and obviously there were slight improvements there, but that's a real poor performance and result.
Yeah, it's a tough one, Nocky. I mean, I know I talk to you two all the time, and like we have a laughing joke about my positivity because I always try and find a positive. I think that's the lowest I'd felt watching Wolves in the Fosun era. We've had plenty of good times, but that's as low as it's felt. And of those 2 games, I mean, this is how much I know about football. Of those 2 games, I thought Everton was the one where we could go and get a result, where we could, the bits of quality we did have, could go up there and give them a game. And how wrong was I? Because actually we played far better at West Ham, and it was a closer game. But it was an absolute stinker. I'm not going to do player ratings on that because it's well, Matt Doherty, I think, was the only player that probably where he came with any credit. I thought he actually played quite well, and I thought he played well again Saturday. Jose Sarr had a full stinker. I don't believe for a second he was injured last week. I do believe he'd have been dropped, but I don't believe he was injured. That's just my opinion, not fact. So we'll go from there. But I think we'll park that Everton performance and we'll focus on West Ham. It doesn't matter if you lose 10-0 or 1-0, I guess, Tyler. It's another loss, a slight improved performance, but it doesn't help the situation with Wolves, where it finished West Ham 2, Wolves 1.
Yeah, you're right. Points is the name of the game at any time, isn't it? But specifically when you're in the situation we're in. Not too many negatives about that performance, really. I thought they did okay. The goals, again, are a joke to concede. You know, you'd argue it wasn't a corner and there was a free kick to the build-up. I do get that. But saying that, you can't keep making the same mistakes over and over. But the players did show character. I thought they did show fight. They got themselves back into the game. I think we're very lucky to lose it. And I think, like you said, Ryan, if the referee and the VAR referees do their job properly, which is difficult, obviously. But if they do, we probably win the game. I think stats-wise, we had the same amount of shots. I think we had one more than them on target. Possession was pretty even. I don't think there was much between the two teams, But it's where we are at the moment. If you're down the bottom, you tend not to get the rub of the green, and we didn't get it at all on Monday night. I thought we scored a very good goal. I thought there was some decent performances, but still collectively, I think there's still more to come from these players. But yeah, I wouldn't be too disgruntled. I think they've sort of bounced back fairly well from that Everton game, especially considering all the noise that it's his last game and all the camera, the circus that's going on in the background. I thought the players actually did okay on Monday night.
Yeah, I'm the same, Nocky. I was obviously, I'm always disappointed with the result, and at one defeat after another, it grinds on you, and it's hard to find positives because you're just sick of losing, and you don't care how good or bad you play. You just want to win. But stepping away from that, I actually thought Wolves were all right on Monday night. Granted, I thought West Ham were probably slightly better, but as the game went on, and I know we talked about it briefly off air, I do feel cheated. Now, granted, you could say against Southampton, the second goal probably shouldn't have stood. It probably shouldn't, because there was 2 fouls in the build-up to that. But there are 2 clear as day penalties. He's got his elbow in his back for the first one, and he's launched him in the box. Anywhere else on the pitch, that's a foul. The second one, he stood on his foot. We saw away at Fulham last year when there was imaginary people falling over boots were given for penalties, yet someone stood on in that game and it's not given. And for good measure, their centre-back jumps up with 2 hands, flattens Santiago Bueno, and the goal's given. I don't care what anyone says, Nocky, whether Wolves are rubbish or not, Wolves are massively done on Monday night.
I agree. I think all of those incidents were the wrong decision, but those are elements we can't control. What we can control is how we defend set pieces, and we've conceded that header at the far post 4 or 5 times this season, and we've not learnt from it. The second goal, Guedes just completely stands off him, real powder puff attempt to win the ball, turns his back, gets beaten, he scores. So you can't control the referees, you can't control VAR, but you can control your own performances. And when you're in the situation we're in, it's about making yourself difficult to beat, and we're not doing that at the moment. We're giving away soft goals. And I agree, we scored a brilliant goal. Sam Johnston, no one's really spoke about the ball out wide to Guedes, but I think it's an absolutely fantastic ball under pressure. And Guedes kills it, plays it to Ait-Nouri. Good ball in the box, and then a great finish by Doherty, who I think has been really, really good recently. So there was positives to take, but for us to score a goal, we've got to work really hard, and we're not replicating that defensively. It's very easy to score against Wolves. So I absolutely agree. I think the 2 penalties should have been penalties. They're penalties that seem to be given every week unless it's us. And I think their goal should have been disallowed for the foul as well. But as I said, you can't control that element of it, but you can control your own performances. So I was relatively pleased with the performance. I expected out the 2 games, this is going to be the one that we potentially get a little bit of a doing, but we didn't. We stood up to it relatively well. I didn't really feel there was too many goals in us, but I felt we looked a little bit more solid. We had a better shape about us, and it was more difficult to play through us. But it's individual errors that have killed us again, regardless of what the referee and VAR have done. We've not managed ourselves, and that's what's inevitably cost us the points, unfortunately.
Yeah, we've not managed ourselves, Tyler. And I know what Nocky's saying. You make your own luck, but we're allegedly in the most sought after, lucrative league in the world where all the players and all the managers want to come, unless you're Wolves. And how can people whose job it is full time get 3 decisions so badly wrong? Now, again, the 19-1 vote, it does feel like Wolves are being punished for that. We could never prove that either way. It's impossible. I don't understand. I mean, maybe the Bellegarde one, you don't see that in real time, but the referee stood in line with the push for when the players pushed over in the area. How do you not see that? He stood in front of the player, the defender, with his 2 arms on Santiago Bueno. How does he not see that? It's in real time, it's bad. But to get a replay of those 2, Tyler, and I know we talk about till our blue in the face, I feel shortchanged. We're not getting a break. Knocky's right, you make your own luck. But sometimes you have to rely on those alleged specialists getting the right decision and coming with a fair outcome, and that did not happen on Monday.
Yeah, I must say I was extremely surprised the Bellegarde one wasn't referred to have a look at the screen. That how they haven't sent him to go and have a look at that one, I've got absolutely no idea. I do think the first one is a penalty, but I can sort of understand why they probably didn't look at that one. It was soft and it was, contact. But the Bellegarde one is just a stonewall penalty 100 times out of 100. And the foul on Bueno, the same. It's a clear foul in the build-up to the goal, and it should be reviewed and it should be ruled out. I don't really know with that one how the referee's even missed it in real time, because he's got a clear view of it and he's about 6 yards away. So I am staggered, but, I think all Wolves fans have probably got used to it. I think I saw someone tweet today that in the period that we've been given 12 penalties, we've had 34 go against us. And, you sort of start to think, don't you, with numbers like that, 3 times the amount that we've conceded, it just doesn't quite add up, does it? But, yeah, I'll never understand the Bellegarde one. Clear as day a penalty, treads on his foot. I don't know what more you can say. That's just stonewall.
Well, they couldn't wait to give that penalty with less contact at Fulham away last year, and I thought the rules had to be more standout. I just don't understand it. One thing that was telling for me, Nocky, I know at Everton they got absolute loads, and O'Neill got hammered for not applauding the fans, and so on. I'm not really going to go into that, but the away end didn't really turn at West Ham. In fact, they were. It didn't. I mean, I know there's obviously going to be some boos, but I think there was a reasonable response, because I think they could see the team that, although it's not going for us, it wasn't a bad performance.
Wolves fans get a lot of stick. It's always said that Wolves fans will turn at the drop of a hat, but I think Wolves fans, especially away from home, the support's excellent, and it was another full house against West Ham, and they were backing the team. And 4-0 down against Everton, all you could hear was Wolves songs, and it was only after the game, when the players are, the game's over and there's nothing to play for, that's when they kind of vented their frustration. And I think against West Ham, they backed them, and they'll back them against Ipswich as well. I think you'll see a difference against Ipswich if we can see the first goal, because the home team, the home supporters are likely to change a little bit quicker, especially with the fact that Gary's still going to be in the dugout. But I think away from home, we've all 3 of us have been up and down the country. I think it's a very solid base of supporters that you don't spend your money to go to these, to London and up north just to go and boo the team. You go there because you want to follow your team, and you want to have those moments of emotion, and you want to be a part of it, don't you? So the away fans, I think, have backed them very, very well. And the only time I've seen them really turn this season during a game was at Brentford, when we were throwing goals in our own.
Probably Everton as well, but even at Everton, they're having a good season.
But it was after the game, though, wasn't it? They were just having a sing-song during the game. So I thought that it was, I thought the fans backed them. It was a decent performance, but there's still things you can find, isn't there? I mean, their goal comes, they get the first goal, we equalise, and then we do what we've done all season, which let them go pretty much straight over the other end and throw one in the net. So again, it's not about what the fans do, it's not about what the players do, it's about those individual moments and that discipline on the pitch that we haven't got at the moment. And it's, you don't get away with it in this division. And at the moment, every mistake we're making has been punished, and we're not being professional how we're performing. So I think that the fans will turn a little bit more as we go through the rest of the season. But at the moment, they're doing all they can to back them.
Tyler, just go into the game itself and the setup. we looked at the setup, and according to Gary, if he's counting Toti Gomez, Wolves have played with 4 fullbacks, 1 centre back, 3 holding midfielders, a striker, and a 10, but not necessarily in those positions. What I would say though is I quite like the shape. The one thing I didn't like, although he played okay, I don't like Joe Gomez that high up on that right hand side. I know he's there because you can trust him and he'll track, but I actually thought the shape and the balance with Toti, Semedo, and Doherty and Ait-Nouri, I thought that worked quite well.
Yeah, I think the Joe Gomez one, I think someone's put on the chat earlier about square pegs in round holes, and it does certainly seem to be that with him. You know, you shoehorn him into the team, he doesn't look that comfortable in that position. And for me, you just don't get the best out of him in that position. I think Joe Gomez, for me, is your old-fashioned centre midfielder that can be good in both boxes and be all over the pitch. So I don't like him in that position. I thought Santi looked fairly solid in the middle of the 3. I thought he looked comfortable. I didn't dislike Semedo's performance. I thought he was good. I thought Doherty, the last couple of games has done reasonably well and deserves credit. Ait-Nouri, I think, still sloppy at times, and I think still needs. That's his face all the time, Luke. You can't do much about that.
I can't do nothing about it, unfortunately.
It'd be looking like that if we'd won 10 on the bounce. But yeah, it did seem to work in a way. I just think, could we be a bit braver with, that right side midfielder, even if it's a Bellegarde or Guedes, he didn't work at Everton, I get that, but a Rodrigo, could we be a bit braver at times would be my only question on the team selection. It is a defensive-minded team. We need wins, we need points. Goal scoring hasn't necessarily been a problem, but the other hand has. I think we just struggle so much to find a balance and to get the balance of the team right. And there's players out of form, there's players playing out of position, your goalkeeper's changing a lot. There's just, for me, too much going on, basically, to get a good, well-settled, balanced team.
But understandably, because if you keep losing, you've got to change it, because especially after Everton, I think you could justify wholesale changes because we stunk the place out, and there was, not result-wise, but performance-wise, there was a massive performance against a much better team in West Ham.
Yeah, but then there were surprises on the same note to that. Surprises on the Everton selection, weren't there? So it works both ways, doesn't it? I was flabbergasted, not flabbergasted. I'm not his biggest fan, but Toti Gomez, for me at the moment, walks into this team every week. He's quick, he's strong, he's pacey. He's got that about him. We haven't really got that at centre-half too much, so I was surprised he didn't start the Everton game and then he comes back in. We haven't had a settled back 3 or back 4 all season. Like I've just said, we haven't had a settled goalkeeper all season. Just too much going on. You look at the teams down there, they don't tend to change it too much. Everton, Southampton, Ipswich, they don't tend to change it. It seems we're changing it every week, and that's naturally a concern, isn't it, if you're trying to get consistency?
Yeah, Nocky, overall, I didn't think it was a bad performance, but we lost. But that opening goal was the stuff of nightmares that we've seen so many times from corners this season. Max Kilman's done a block. One of the best midfielders, headers of the ball in the Premier League, seems to have space to head and loop. I don't know if he got lucky or not, regardless, it was a goal. He was allowed to win the header. It's just such a schoolboy decision. But is that something that's happened because we don't have a Dawson in the team? Or is it just a matter of, is that good in those situations you can't stop him?
No, it's just because we don't set up properly from corners. We're doing the same thing that hasn't worked all season. I think Chris Wood scored one from that sort of position. Chelsea's opener was from that position. We've done another one today. I'm sure there's other examples as well. We're setting up a certain way from corners, but we're not covering the danger men. We're covering the areas instead, and it's just a
zonal thing, isn't it?
Yeah, but it doesn't work. So why are you still doing it? We've got rid of the set piece coach, and we've gone downhill further from set pieces since he's gone, and we're just not addressing these issues. It's not a good corner. It's just a loopy corner to the far post, a loopy header back across. It's ended up in the net. It's so soft. It's so soft, and we've spoken about our soft underbelly, a few times this season, and you're giving it you're making it so difficult for yourself when you're giving goals like that away, because we've been okay up to that point. We've been relatively solid. We look pretty controlled in the game, and then you go and give such a poor header away that you've already conceded 3 or 4 times this season. It's just not good enough. And you can have sympathy with Gary around the transfers and the amount of money that we've made and the lack of investment and the poor quality of players that have come in. But he's a head coach. That should be his bread and butter, to make sure that we're set up, organised and defensively sound from those positions. So as much as there's mitigating circumstances to where we are, he absolutely takes responsibility for us not doing the basics on the pitch, because it's an absolutely atrocious goal to concede.
I think it's fair to say, Tyler, under Gary O'Neill, Wolves have improved massively going forward, but equally concerning, or more concerning, they've massively regressed at the back.
Well, yeah, and that's why we are where we are. Is it the worst defence in the country, potentially? Certainly in the league, and it might be in the country. I mean, you can talk and analyse and bicker till, the cows come home, but if you've got the worst defence in the league or the country, there's only one way you go in, and that's down. So, and like we've talked about here, we have to work so hard to score a goal, and we just hand them in. We started the second half, I thought, really brightly. Should have scored if Aït-Nouri could put a ball across the box. And you think, yeah, this looks positive. And then you just give a goal away. And you just can't legislate, you can't do it game after game, week after week. He must be pulling his hair out. I mean, I know we've all got our opinions on the guy, but it's kids football, and it's Sunday morning football, those goals we're conceding. And
how many goals are from set pieces now? I mean, there was 4 against Everton. I think both West Ham goals, because if you look at the second West Ham, it originally comes from a set piece. There was 3 against.
Bear in mind as well, for their goal, it wasn't a corner either.
Yeah, but again, you're not giving yourself a chance,
Ryan, in the game. We had 1 corner, they had 14.
Yeah.
I can't argue with that. I like numbers, and that's a number that slapped me right in the face. You are listening and watching episode 113 of the Wolves Report with our Director of Football, Mark Knock, who's changed over, and now club captain Chris Tyler. Sorry, boys, I've had to change it over because it's not working.
We're going to talk about our club captain.
You know what? I'm just going to have to keep you on, mate. Just step up and just deliver. You'll do.
We'll get a pay rise now.
You go from 0 to 0, pay you in kind, but that's for another podcast separately. And I'm your host, Ryan Lester. Let's go through the team briefly. There's lots of questions and other stuff to talk about as well. Tyler, the probably expert on goalies more than the rest of us in there, especially when I score past you at Molineux. Sam Johnson, I don't think he had a bad game at all. I thought he did okay.
Yeah, I thought he was absolutely fine. I think Sarr was rightly dropped, in my opinion. I don't think he's injured. And from what I've heard, I don't think he's injured. And I think for his antics at the weekend, he has been dropped. Not an easy situation for Johnston to come into, with obviously what's happened with him, but everything he did well. Good save from Bowen in the first half. Scooped another good save as well, I think, for a corner. Had a distribution was good. Great pass for the goal. I think hopefully that sort of calmed him down a little bit, and I'm sure we'll see him get a run of games now. But everything he did competently. So probably 7 out of 10 for me. I thought he was absolutely sound.
Yeah, that was the performance of an England squad keeper that you thought you'd bought for £10 million.
It was comfortable.
That's what you're after. No issue. Deserves to keep his shirt. Probably not as spectacular and as agile as Sarr, but hopefully more level-headed and add a little bit more calmness. We shall see. Knocker, you can do the whole back 3. They conceded 2.
Cheers.
Nelson Semedo, you're welcome. Nelson Semedo, right centre-back-ish. Santiago Bueno in the middle, and Toti Gomez left of a 3. I wouldn't change that on Saturday. What were your thoughts on the performance?
I don't think they did a great deal wrong, did they? I don't blame them for the first goal, because that's a positional thing that's dictated by the coaching staff. And the second, he's more Guedes than anybody else, because he doesn't approach the attacker. But I thought they were okay. What's wrong with the tinsel? I thought that was it.
For those listening on Spotify, Adrian Richards has made a complaint about Nocky's decorations. I can't even see any decorations from here. Never mind make a complaint. But anyway,
that's probably the point, Ryan.
On with the back 3. Go on, get that hat on, Tyler.
I'll stick the tree on next week. I thought they were okay. I thought that they were relatively good. They benefited probably from Antonio not being there, because he's such a big lad that has struggled to defend him. But I thought everything they did relatively well. It was just more a case of individual errors letting us down. So yeah, they were okay. There was they weren't outstanding. They were just there, weren't they? It was average performances, but there was nothing that you really look at and think they should have done better. It was just a okay display.
I'm not saying anything to do with the standard of the podcast, but when people are asking Christmas decoration related questions, you know the football's bad at Wolverhampton. People want to know where Christmas trees are, where's your tinsel. It's bad. We're talking about Christmas decorations on the Wolves Report podcast.
Tyler's wearing a hat that was made for a 4-year-old as well. He's
no, that's not, mate. You know, Tyler's 8'14". So moving on to the centre midfield, Tyler, Andre, he was okay. Not the standards. He hasn't quite set the standards recently. He did early days, but he had some time out of the team. He was just okay. I think he's way better than what he showed. But something now we're going to have a debate on, Mario Lemina's performance. I thought he was okay in midfield, but a lot of attention went to his behaviour after the game. Tyler, Mario Lemina.
Just firstly, Carl, I'll get him a treat tomorrow, mate, so that'll be it for next week. The Lemina antics will split opinion depending on your outlook in life and your morals and how you approach things. That's just natural. I don't like it. I don't like to see my captain acting like that. You can do what you want in the changing rooms and behind the scenes. You can have a dust up with the manager. You can throw your coffee cups across. You can do whatever you want for me in there. But those antics, I think Nocky said it the other night. I think it was just a bit of a show in the end. It's almost like he was doing it. It was like a bit of a pantomime villain, and I didn't like it at all. And when you look at recent captains of, Ruben Neves, Connor Cody, that's for me how a captain should articulate themselves, be a natural leader. We've seen him crying this season. We've seen him trying to deck people now this season. We've seen more Instagram posts this season than the Kardashians, haven't we? So for me, I don't want to see it. Just keep your performances on the pitch, shake hands with everybody at the end of the game, and get down the tunnel, and then have the dust ups. His performances, along with Andre and potentially Joe Gomez, have been fairly average for their standards this season. And I'm not Tommy Doyle's biggest fan, but how he doesn't get a bit more game time at the moment, especially a game like West Ham where it's fairly open and you probably want someone just to get on the ball and pick a pass and play that ball. I'm surprised he's not getting more time, but
maybe on Saturday against Ipswich is the game.
Yeah, I think Gomez being suspended, if anything, probably does O'Neill a bit of a favour because he hasn't got to play Gomez in that hybrid position. And I think it's probably time to give Tommy Doyle a run, especially against Ipswich at home, where again you think you'd probably get a bit of time on the ball, and I think he can pick the right pass. But I want to see more from Lemina on the pitch and being a leader than the antics that we saw.
Just before I drop in a great message from Jonah, who's put something really funny on. I'm mixed on Mario Lemina. Would I want to see him just walking off sulking or a bit of passion and fight? It's not professional. It's not a great look. I'm not overly offended by it, though. I don't want my players and my captain do it. I've got to be honest, I hold my hands up. I'm not overly offended. I want my players upset. It might be a show, it might not. He was angry, he's upset. I don't want him doing that all the time. But you know what? I'd rather someone that cares too much than doesn't care enough. But that's just my take, anyway.
You're a vegan, Ryan. You're offended by everything.
Am I? I'm mates with you two, so I can't be offended with that much. Anyway.
It was poor, that was. I mean, I know that you've got the... you want to see him showing a bit of passion. You want to show him showing a bit of fight. But that just felt like a show to me. That was almost like a, please don't boo me. Look how cross I am. And I didn't like that. Look, Bowen's come up
said cross. You know it's trouble when Nocky says cross.
But Bowen's come up to shake his hand, and he petulantly just slapped it away. I mean, there's nothing. It wasn't a niggly game for me. That's a lack of respect. It's lack of professionalism. It's just to show the fans that, don't get cross from me. It looks everybody else who's causing the trouble, not me. I thought it was really poor, especially for the captain. I want the captain getting hold of the players and, getting the morale up, driving into them that we're better than this, we can do this. When your captain, he's throwing his toys out of the pram and squaring up to Sean Derry, that doesn't send the right message. So, yes, I want to see a bit of fight, but I want to see a bit of fight in the right areas. I want to see him going into midfield and snotting someone. I want to see him going in and showing a little bit of passion on the pitch, doing it after the game when you've been relatively dominated in midfield. That's not what I want to see from my captain. I want to see a little bit of fight in the right areas. I just thought it was really poor, and it was to appease the supporters, is how it felt to me.
Yeah, fair enough. I understand. I don't know if those who haven't seen it or listening on Spotify. Jonah says Mary Lemina's had more Instagram apologies than Wolves have got points. Great contribution. Tyler, moving to the wing backs, Ryan Aitnori, who was okay, and my man of the match, Matt Doherty.
Aitnori's form's becoming a bit of a concern, isn't it? He was. Yeah. I think he gave the ball away within minutes. Has to put it on a plate for Doherty at the start of the second half to score. He's been poor, hasn't he, for weeks now, let's be honest. And he looks like he doesn't care. I think he does, but that's just his natural way of playing, and he's going to wind people up because of that. I still think he's one of the best natural footballers that we've got, and we've probably had in recent times, but you just want to see a bit more from him. The square ball for Doherty, for me, is inexcusable at this level.
It was a pass of a player that was not confident. If an informed Ryan Aitnori gets that ball, he's rolling that 9 times out of 10 because he's losing the ball. He's not really having an impact in games. All players have a dip. Exactly. Players, particularly with talent like that, of flair, they can't. And he's out of form. It was the ball of a player that hit it hard and hoped for the best, as opposed to picking his player because he's not confident. I can forgive him for that. And I say this.
He's not doing it on purpose, and it's a mistake. They're the fine margins at the moment for us, aren't they? And that's the problem. And
I'd be more concerned, Tyler, if you didn't get into that position as a wing back. If you get in that position, eventually you will find that pass. That's the most important thing there.
And let's be fair, he got the assist, didn't he, for the goal? So, he's done well for that. I thought Doherty was very good, really. He was a bit horrible as well, wasn't he? He put a couple of horrible tackles in. He got his yellow card.
Look at Nocky loving that. Look at his face.
Yeah, loves it. He wins his headers. He's good in the air. It was a bit like Doherty under Nuno, wasn't it? He was getting in the box. He was arriving late. He got his goal. He deserved his goal. I think he's in the team for me at the moment. And I didn't think I'd be saying that, at the start of the season. But I think he warrants that place, and he's still an attacking threat. He makes those runs. Was it him that put the great ball in for João Gomes first half as well? I think first time from Strand Larsen's pass. He played well, and if you're being fair and consistent to players, I think he's on the team sheet for Saturday.
Yeah, 100%. Now, this might sound really basic, and it should do. Isn't it amazing what happens to footballers when you play to their strengths? Matt Doherty's never been a great defender. His strength is getting wide and supporting. We allowed him to do that. We also played a number of goal kicks to him, and he won everything in the air. His strength under Nuno was winning them headers defensively and more attackingly and getting wide. And he's never been blessed with pace, but his positional play and the way he finds space on the right-hand side, he's very good. That was a performance of the Matt Doherty we saw 4 or 5 years ago. We might not see that on a regular basis, but it needs acknowledging that Matt Doherty plays well. If you put goal kicks to Matt Doherty, he wins nearly every single header. And if you are more of a regular in the team, I'm happy. And I think his relationship with Semedo was pretty good. Moving on to the front three of João Gomes, Mateus Cunha, and Strand Larsen. Nocky, I felt a little bit sorry for João Gomes. I think he played okay, but it's a bit confusing why he played in that position.
Yeah, I mean, just on Doherty, I've got to be honest, I'll be giving him the armband on Saturday. I think he was the only leader on the pitch. In terms of Gomez, square pegs in round holes didn't work for him. We kind of paid the price for that in the central attacking area because Larsen was completely isolated, couldn't get a kick. I don't fully understand why he played him there. It felt a little bit of I'm desperate to get him in the team scenario as opposed to having a plan or a tactic. So it didn't work. We didn't really react to it. We just kept going with it and hoping it'd work, really. I thought Larsen played well. You want me to do all three of the strikers?
Yeah, why not have them all, mate?
Go on then. I thought Larsen worked hard, but just couldn't get in the game, couldn't affect the game. But he relies on service, doesn't he? You look how deadly he is when those balls are pinged into the box. That's where he comes alive. But we didn't feed him at all. Cunha came very, very deep. We know he likes to do that, but again, really struggled to affect the game. He had that unbelievable performance against Fulham, and since then, I think he's been really poor. So, as good as he is, he's struggling for consistency, which is not what we need from our best player at the moment. But he worked hard. He put his shift into coin a Mick McCarthy phrase, but really struggled to affect the game. I thought that all three of the attackers were disappointing. I don't think they were helped by the midfield. I don't think they were helped by the way we set up, but they didn't bring much to the table, I'd say.
Yeah, I thought Strand Larson played quite well. I like the way he came a bit deeper and linked. And I think having a wing back either side of him, the way he was allowed to play Doherty, and I thought that really well for him because he's got a good touch and he's got a bit of vision. I think he's a very complete footballer.
He needs service though, doesn't he? It's all right holding the ball up, which is what you want him to do, but he's your finisher in that area. You want Cunha playing off him. You want Cunha picking up those pockets and looking for space around him. But you want a bit of a target man that you can get the ball wide, drive it in, and make things happen. It's all right coming out and collecting and laying it off. Of course, you want him doing that, but play to his strengths, feed the ball into him, give him a chance to attack it, and he'll get you more goals. He's already proved that.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was probably our weakest area of the pitch in terms of Cunha, and I just think sometimes he was brilliant at Fulham, but he almost feels like now that casualness he's got, he's almost over trying now and trying to beat everybody all the time. I'm not going to criticise him. You can't be that brilliant, score screamers every single week. He's had a dip and hopefully he can be back in business against Ipswich when we badly need him on Saturday. That concludes the player ratings and match analysis of episode 113 of the Wolves Report. Mark, not Chris Tyler, and myself, Ryan Lester. John Percy dropped an article as he has a lot and gets a lot of Wolves exclusives, breaking the news that Gary O'Neill is to remain at Wolverhampton Wanderers, not for the foreseeable future. He didn't really say that, but for now, and almost says that Gary's going to get backed in the January window. But that may change if we find someone or it doesn't go well. You read into it whatever you will. I don't know. We've mentioned this a few times, and you two have said as well, particularly Nocky. I don't understand how any Premier League manager would survive this run of results. And the fact that I feel like the club have embarrassed themselves by not been having the ability to attract an up-and-coming, a previous Premier League manager or someone from aboard. This speaks highly of how our football club is now thought of under the guidance of Jeff Shee. Tyler.
Oh, it's just a circus, isn't it? Let's be honest. I don't really know what to say, which probably isn't very good for a podcast, is it? But I don't know how you can have such a change of tact when it was common knowledge that Monday was his last game and he was going to be sacked, and now they can't find anybody that's better than him. So now he keeps the job, but we don't know how long he keeps it for. Yeah, I'm literally speechless at what's going on at the football club. I think we knew it was bad, didn't we? We've talked about how bad it's been, off the pitch for quite a while now, going back to the start of the season with how they treat fans and certain, you can go into it again, but you don't need to. But yeah, how we're in this position is just negligence and mismanagement. And Gary seems to have either been very clever or very lucky, I think, with his post-match interviews, because he seems to have got fans back on his side again and sort of played the sympathy card. What he says is factual information. We've made a lot of money and we haven't reinvested it. Difficult for him to improve the team in that basis. I get that. On the flip side, I don't expect a team with these players to be on 9 points from 15 games. So there's a counter-argument to go whichever way you want to. But Fosun, Shee, are they going to do it again where they just go big in January and try and get us out of this mess? It's not sustainable, as Nocky said, for years on here. So I'm flabbergasted the situation we're in. Like I said, that almost speechless, but Nocky will probably articulate it better than me. But it's just mind-blowing where we are at the moment.
Nocky.
I think Tyler's articulated it really well. It's just a shambles, isn't it? It feels to me like they want to replace him, but they don't want to pay him out of his contract. You'd assume there's some kind of clause in his contract that they could pay him a reduced fee based on how long he's got, but then I wouldn't trust the club to have put that in the first place. Matt Hobbs told us that they were already had succession plans in place. They'd already got options. This was, before the season even started, and then suddenly we can't get anybody in. It's clear that they want to make the change, but they A, don't want to pay him off, B, they don't want to bring in a manager like David Moyes or someone like that, because they're going to demand that there's certain guarantees financially.
They want it, but they can't.
And they're not going to get it. Well, yeah, but they're not going to spend the money, are they? So it's just utter incompetence. It feels like they've accepted that we're going to go down. They want to pull the belts in and just almost hope for a miracle that Gary can go on a little bit of a run of form and keep us up. But it's an utter mess. I mean, I'm amazed he wasn't sacked. I would have sacked him after Chelsea personally because of the way that we fell apart in that game. But the fact he hasn't been sacked, and they're lying about it because they've told us that it's more around they're going to give him a chance and it's going to be dependent on results. And we've won 4 in 26. I mean, how bad does it have to be before you pull the trigger? So I feel sorry for him. It's not doing him any good. Still being at this football club, he needs to drop down the leagues and learn his trade a little bit, and then I think he'll come back as a better manager for it. But you can't underestimate how important your manager is and the impact that your manager makes, regardless of how good your players are. I mean, you look at an Aston Villa, the position they were in before Emre came in, relatively same players. Now they're in the Champions League, and then even to take it to a kind of lower league level, Plymouth were doing okay, brought in Wayne Rooney, they're second from bottom now. So it's so important to get your managerial appointment right, and it's just going from bad to worse. And I've almost accepted relegation now, and I think the club have as well. So we're going to be stuck with Gary, I think, for the foreseeable, especially if they're talking about backing him in January. But I don't think it's because they feel he can turn it. I just don't think they feel they're in a financial position to change him.
Now, what I would say is I have no issue with a self-sustaining model. I don't have an issue with that. I don't expect any owner to spend £1 billion or £1. But what I do expect the owners to do is to look after our football club properly. Now, it's not for me to demand that you sign this or sign that, but you have a responsibility. You've taken over. This isn't like a toy. This is a football club that fans and people love, that go every week. It makes or breaks. We're friends because of Wolverhampton Wanderers. You know what I mean? Loads of our mates are, and the things that we do, and our kids are. This isn't a toy. You have a responsibility to be the honour of the custodians of our club to do things correctly. Now, I am grateful for that promotion year and the 2/7, fantastic, best years of my life. However, since then, they've let standards drop. I don't mind Fosun, Jeff Shee, whoever, Matt Hobbs, being a self-funded club. I have no issue. But you've got to get everything perfect to do that in the Premier League. Brighton, Brentford, they're two clubs that try to do it, that do it okay. Wolverhampton Wanderers are a million miles off being Brighton or Brentford. Million miles off it. And let me finish, Tyler. And if you aren't going to do that, eventually you're going to get relegated. So, unfortunately, then you're either going to have to put your money in your pocket and help Wolves stay in the Premier League with some more players that were needed, or if you're not interested, maybe it's time to move on. Tyler.
Yeah, you've not been working very hard today, have you? Because you've obviously wrote that speech, and it was lovely, certainly it was. But I agree with it. I agree with aspects of what you both said there. And the well-run clubs aren't just well-run off the field; they're well-run on it. So if you think about Brentford, they sold Ivan Toney, and they've scored more goals this season without him because they're well-run and they've got an excellent manager. Fulham have got an excellent manager. They've lost players and they've replaced them. They let Pelina go. They bring in Sanderberg. They bring in Smith Rowe. They bring in ready-made Premier League players, and they've got an excellent manager. Brighton, ready-made players, excellent manager. If you look at the league, it's not rocket science. The teams that are up there have very good managers. Forest, again, very good manager. Now he's where he is. Villa, excellent manager. The teams that are struggling a little bit, your Man U's, your West Ham's, your Wolves, they haven't got excellent managers, or they haven't had to this point. So for me, it is both. It is about being good off the field and on the field. And I think we've got it wrong, both on the field and off the field. It's just a recipe for disaster, isn't it? I'm with Nocky. I'm resigned to it now. I don't see any way that we get out of it. But proper football managers and good football managers will get results. And there's no way,
you find a way to win, don't you? You find a way to win.
There's no way in a million years that West Ham have ever been in a relegation battle this season and never will be, because he will find a way to get points and to win football matches. They weren't very good against us. They win. They weren't very good at Newcastle. They win. They were 2 points behind, I think, Man U, Newcastle and Tottenham. And is it threat of losing his job? No chance for me. So I think we've got it wrong on and off the pitch. And as we've talked about, that'll just end one way.
Okay.
Are we self-sufficient? Because I think there's different levels of self-sufficient. I mean, we've made, 200 million in the last couple of years, and we've reinvested it into substandard replacements. So we've almost gone above the self-sufficient model now to where we're actually hemorrhaging money upwards, because we're not, you can't get rid of Neto and then bring in Rodrigo Gomez, who's 3 seasons away. You can't replace quality with substandard replacements, and that's what we're doing. We're bringing in potential. And if you look at the players we sell Neves when he's at the peak of his powers, when he's ready made, like Tyler said. We did it with Jota, we did it with Neto. We bring these players up to a standard and then we can sell them for a big profit. But then we're bringing in players who are just miles off it, and that you can't keep doing that and think it's going to keep working. And it's not a model. And I know you said you're comfortable with the model, Ryan. I'm really not, because I think there's a responsibility. When you're charging the prices we're charging, we're not benchmarking against a Southampton or an Ipswich. We're benchmarking against a Villa or a Man City or people like that. And we're not playing that level of football. So if you're going to charge those kind of prices, you've got to deliver a product that's similar to it. And I'd argue that we're bleeding the club and the supporters as much as we can to get as much money out of it before they pull out. That's what it feels like to me, because going down is catastrophic for a football club. The impact on the staff, the impact on the supporters, on the area is absolutely massive. So for Fosun to be in a comfortable position to just let us die essentially and drop down, there's got to be something in the pipeline that they're trying to offload us, because it just makes no financial sense to do it. And we're in such a mess at the moment. I mean, you could almost see him cashing in on Cunha just as a panic sale, so they don't use the money off. They don't lose the money off him at Christmas. The whole thing absolutely stinks from top to bottom. And I don't see any way out of this, because I don't believe in the manager, I don't believe in the owners, and I don't believe in the players. So I'm 90% sure that Wolves will be relegated. And even if we did stay up, we'd sell Cunha, and then we'd be in exactly this position again next year. You circle the drain for so long until you eventually drop through it, and it's a stay of execution every year. We're staying up. I mean, we've had 7 seasons, and only 2 of them we finished in the top half. There's been incremental drops in the standard of the football club and the players that have been playing for us. You're never going to be able to hold on to that. So it's inevitable we're going to go, whether it's this year or next year. And it's so poorly run at the moment.
Yeah, it does feel like a very poorly run football club. Now, I asked this question off air earlier on to have a little bit of fun with the boys. And I want your answers as well now. So you've got Jeff Shee, Matt Hobbs and Gary O'Neill. You can only keep one of them. I don't want to see in the comments which one you put in. It's a tough question, isn't it? If I can see a couple of those. Tyler, you said Hobbs, didn't you? Knocker, you said Hobbs.
Not because I'd want him anywhere near the operations of the football club.
What does that say? What does that say, though?
Best of a bad bunch for me, and it's just a shame that there's no ambition there. I'm not saying you could go and get Dan Ashworth. I don't think you could, but have a go, throw a bit at him, get a football man in. Have him replacing Jeff Shee running the football operations. It would just give the club a lift, wouldn't it, and give it a boost, and just trying to show a bit. And obviously, the way Knock is right. Obviously, they've obviously spoke to 4 or 5 managers. If you read what you read in the Athletic as being true, and none of them are interested, and they won't be interested because they won't be getting guarantees of how they can manage the team and what budgets they've got. So there's obviously nothing changing. There isn't a change in approach from Fosun. They might give Gary 10, 15 million to buy a centre back in January. That's probably going to be your lot. So,
yeah,
Hobbs seems to be getting the votes, doesn't he?
Hobbs seems to be. Oh my God, what's happened here? Why has Wolves done this on purpose? That's proper trolling, that is. Jazz, I know what you're doing there. You've absolutely had us away on purpose. Should we get onto some questions?
Yes.
Yes, why not? Okay, let's go on to some questions. Start on a
Not
positive
as bad
note.
as that. Not as bad as that one you've just done, though.
Borley
That's all right.
says docking her out. Despite 2 defeats, he's
Yeah.
been our best player. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a quick, easy one. We covered it earlier on, Borley. I think that Doty's
the
been
knocker.
a shining light.
Captain.
I think he's absolutely nailed on. More onto the club side of things now. Chris Whippy asks, how confident are you that Fosun will sell the club in the next 12, 24 months, for example? Are you 50% sure, 70% sure, or they aren't? If they aren't investing, then surely they want to sell. Now, from my basic business knowledge now, I'm sure Tyler's got a more business brain than I have. When you want to sell a business, you tighten things up and you make the books look good and you really pull things to make it more attractive to buyers. It's easier to sell if the club is run well and making a profit and hemorrhaging less money. It does have that feel, but it's had that feel that things have been getting tighter and squeezed now for probably 3 or 4 years. Ever since the European season, things have been on the squeeze more and more. So to me, Chris, it looks like a club that might be going self-sustainable, but they might be trying to squeeze everything out to look good for a buyer because they're trying to sell. I don't know. Your take, Tyler?
Yeah, I think it's a good way to look at things. I think to answer his question from a percentage perspective, I think I'd be around that sort of 75% mark, and a bit what Nocky alluded to. Then are they selling these players to be self-sufficient, or are they selling these players to maximise income and maximise profit? And I think it's that one. We've talked about the prices, the ground's falling down, no infrastructure, nothing's been improved. Are they just running a tight ship, to make themselves more appealing? The flip side to that is you're probably less appealing in the Championship, and people aren't going to be spending the money that they'd be getting in the Premier League. And that's for players as well. If we drop down, Kuna, Aït-Nouri, Gomez, suddenly they've gone, but their value won't be what it would be if you're in the Premier League. People will do you on the cheap. So this is why it just doesn't really seem to make much sense. It's difficult to understand what their thought process is, and I don't even know if they've even got one, to be honest.
Yeah, it does seem like a rudderless ship, and I'll always do this, playing devil's advocate. You have to credit Jeff and Fosun for those good years. The building of a relationship with an agent to get you the best players was a very smart move. Not many clubs had done a part. Obviously, they had preferred agents and stuff, but what they did for a Championship club was ahead of everybody else, and it led to Wolves having the best 3 years we'd probably experienced, and it was fantastic, and I am grateful. However, without George Mendes, Jeff Shee is absolutely lost. Now, you shouldn't be that reliant on an agency in Gestifute or George of his people. And I'm grateful, but I equally understand that for every Yotta, there's going to be a Silver. And unfortunately, that's just the way it is. But that model got Wolves into Europe and to an FA Cup semi-final, European quarter-final, things I'd never be talking about. But Wolves now are close to being back where they started, and all that good work is undone. So to answer Chris's question, I think they're testing it to see how far they can push. I think when they panicked last time under Lopetegui and they threw a load of money in and they give Lopetegui what he wanted, I think no club is going to say now, no club is going to say, we're going to spend in January. They'd be idiots because the price go up. If you say there's a few pennies to spend to make everyone believe that you're skint and that, I do not believe Fosun financially are going to want to let Wolves drop, and I think whoever's in charge in January will get the backing. So to answer the question, I think it's very unlikely. I don't see them selling. Nocky?
It's just hard to see what they're trying to achieve if they're not trying to sell, though, isn't it? Because we're going to go down. I mean, I know you said they'll throw money at it, but who do you get to come if you're rooted in the bottom three? I mean,
we've got Dawson and Lamina before it worked.
Yeah, but we got away with that, didn't we? There's no Lopetegui to come and save us.
Yeah, different times.
And you had Neves, you had Neto, you had players who could pull you out the fire and win your games on their own. And I'd argue we really don't have that this season. So I think if someone came in with the offer they wanted, they'd absolutely take it. It's the only thing I can see as to why they're running the club the way they're running it, because they lose 100 million if we get relegated, but that team won't survive.
Well, the value of the club pretty much halves. Say if Wolves are worth 450 million now, I think I'm being ambitious there. That halves if they get relegated. So what's cheaper?
So they're business people. They're an investment company. They want to make money. Wolves don't make money for them if they're relegated, but they're not doing anything to stop that from happening.
Yeah.
So common sense dictates.
We can't fully answer that until the end of January, can we? Manager-wise, we can't. But we can't answer that question fully to the end of January.
So why is Gary O'Neill still in charge of the club then?
Because they can't attract it.
Tell me one other manager, one other club where Gary O'Neill would have survived this season. There isn't one. So if you're not willing to say to David Moyes, here's £2 million for a 6-month contract and another £2 million if you keep us up. If we can't do those kind of deals with a Moyes, with a Potter, with somebody like that, then how on earth can you think that there's any interest in the survival of the football club? Because you're not willing to invest in what is a fundamental of a football club, is to have a manager who can run the football activities. If you're willing to accept that Gary O'Neill's not good enough, but you're not going to replace him, you're accepting relegation. You would only do that.
I just think they're hoping that the 3 promoted teams are worse.
But they're not, are they? And we know that already based on the season.
At this stage, they're not, but we don't know that. It's more likely now. This is the most I felt like Wolves are going to get relegated. And I hate myself saying it. And I have to admit now, I feel more likely that we're going to go down than we're going to stay up. That may change in the next 2 games, or that may get well and truly cemented in the next 2 games. But
I've got a question.
Yeah, go on.
I've got a question. If someone offered 60 million for Cunha, but you could reinvest it in January, would you take it?
No. Too important. Way too important. He's our match winner. If he
players are.
No way. He's too important. He's the one player that the bottom 3 teams do not have. He's the one player that is on his day, and which hasn't happened for the last 2 games. But previous to that, he was brilliant every week for a few weeks, scoring screamers. He's irreplaceable. He's the difference between Wolves potentially staying up and not. If he goes, Wolves are done. There's no way I'm selling.
I don't know. I think Tyler's tempted.
Give me 100 million and reinvest in it all. It's a different conversation.
I think I'd agree with Ryan, but obviously the teams I've just mentioned that have lost their main player and have brought in ready-made replacements. If you're telling me he's going, but I'm bringing in 3 or 4 Premier League ready footballers, I think I might be tempted.
Taking out your top assister and top scorer.
If you replace him with 4 players that are Premier League ready to come in and make it,
60 million is not enough. It's 100 million and I want it all reinvested. Then it's a conversation.
They're not going to sell him. Even they're not stupid enough to sell him. But you're not getting those sort of figures if we go down.
It's a disgusting question.
We'll be looking to get our money back on him.
But two centre halves and attacking midfielder. You've got to be tempted. Got to be tempted.
True. Chris, thank you for your question, creating the debate. I'm not sure we all answered it. I don't think they're going to sell. I think Tyler said he was 50, 75. And Nocky?
I think they want to sell, yeah.
Okay. Chris, thanks for being part of the Wolves report. This sort of follows on to a bit earlier on as well. Jonas says, surely this self-sufficient model is setting us up for failure if we keep selling our best players and buying talents for the future who can't make an impact. Yeah, I think we've all echoed that, and I totally agree, Jonah. But as I've said, I don't mind this model, but your recruitment has to be perfect. Brighton are pulling players out you've never heard of. They're coming in and they're being brilliant in the Premier League. This is why Brighton are ahead. Granted, I like Joe Gomez, and I'm sure Rodrigo or Lima will come good in the future. But Brighton are pulling players out from Peru or wherever, and they're in the team and they're good straight away. So those players are out there. So Wolves have got to do better. I agree, Jonah.
That new signing from Peru is pretty good, isn't he, Paddington?
Yeah, yeah. Terrible.
Where did you get Peru from?
I don't know. I just
Robbie Solano from Peru. I made that up.
I don't know, but I think I watched Paddington earlier on. I really enjoyed it anyway. Chris asks, realistically, where do we go from here? I think Gary O'Neill's bad form will continue, and folks will eventually too late sack him with no replacement lined up. Chris, this is the closest I felt to Wolves have been relegated since we've been back up. And that hurts me to say because I'm annoyingly positive to these guys in the group chat and they slag me for it, but they've dragged me down to their level of reality. And now it feels like we're going to more likely go down than stay up, even though the bookies still think we're going to stay up. But Dean Saunders says the bookies are never wrong, and they were wrong. So who knows? But it looks
bad. Realism, and you know, you can easily get tainted with being negative, but it's realism. You know, it's realistic of where we are at the moment. You know, there's nothing more I want than O'Neill to turn this round, get 2 wins on the bounce, go into Christmas Day out the bottom 3, and everything looks a little bit better again. But
that brandy sauce will taste better on Christmas Day, won't it, son?
Double Christmas pudding all round for the Tylers, isn't it? But if you don't, and you might get 1 or 2 points, it's game over, isn't it? Let's be honest, because those run fixtures.
I think these 2 games are minimum 4, nothing else.
6 has to be 6. Has to be.
Yeah.
Massive. Chris, thank you for creating debate on this day.
You're a fan of stats, right? There's not a single stat anywhere that says Wolves will survive this year. We're bottom
other than the bookies.
Other than the bookies, but we've conceded more goals than anyone else.
But the professionals,
opinion still.
It is, but it's a data-driven number that they get. Why are they saying that Wolves will stay up? So why is every single bookmaker saying that?
That's driven by people lumping, though, isn't it? I mean, if you're firing money, you're going to change the odds. But I mean, we've conceded more goals than anyone else. We've conceded more set pieces than anybody else. Every stat tells you that we're probably going to get relegated. So I just don't see how we survive.
Let's bring one more.
The only positive stat is the goal scored, isn't it? That's the only one that you can be positive about at the moment, because all the others you can't be.
Yeah. Great question. Thanks again for creating some debate. Mike, with the final question. By the way, I just want to thank everyone for all the questions. We've had messages to the show on Facebook. I've had DMs myself. I've not been able to answer them all. I will do my best to respond. This week has created so many questions and debate. I will get back to people as I can. I'm not being rude. It's just been, obviously, I've got my family and my job, and I do this as well. So I will do my best to respond to people as quickly as I can. But thank you for the questions for the show and to me. The final question, Mike asks, now Gary O'Neill knows he would have been sacked. Had anyone else decent been able to work for Fosun? How motivated do you think you'll be to keep us up? Now, I'll answer this first. I think Gary will be thinking, well, I can't believe I'm still here. But he's got an opportunity now against, for me, 2 of the worst teams. Granted, we're one of the worst teams. 2 of the worst teams in the league. And I don't think he'll be believing his luck. I think Gary will be very motivated. He was so professional after West Ham. And I think it has brought him a little bit of sympathy and understanding, because without calling Fosun out, he kind of called them out. He said what a lot of us have feared and what we've known, and he's led on to that. Is Gary O'Neill good enough for Wolves at the moment? No, he's not. Do I have a bit of sympathy? Yeah. Is he trying his best? I think he is. I'm not going to dislike him because he's not good enough, but I think he'll be very motivated. Any more takes on that?
I don't dislike O'Neill, and I think his personal pride is that he's going to want to try and win for the football club. So I don't think motivation will be an issue. He wants to prove he's the right man for the job. It's the ability that's the issue, not the motivation. So he knows that they want to replace him. He's got an opportunity to keep himself in with a couple of positive results, but it's more his ability to do that as opposed to his desire to do it.
Tyler?
I just think it's not a nice position for him to be in. I think, you can't relate football to other walks of life and other jobs, but I don't see how he can feel he has got the full backing. I don't see how he can feel he's got the full trust. And it'll go 2 ways. He'll either be revved up and wound up to prove a point and say, you know what, I'm a Premier League manager. I'll show them.
Hopefully.
You know what. Or he thinks, I'm going anyway. What's the point?
I don't see that interview.
We don't know well enough. No, but you don't have the career he's had, playing the amount of games he's had and coaching. You're going
to be mentally strong to be doing that.
You've got something about you, exactly.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. And I hope, and I've said this on Twitter, I'm not sure Gary O'Neill is right for Wolves now, but my God, I want to eat those words. I want the negative comments shoved in, and I want to eat every word of it. And I hope he proves us wrong. And I hope that starts on Saturday, because regardless of what we think of O'Neill, I want the best of Wolverhampton Wanderers, and the best of Wolves is to win on Saturday and then to win the following Sunday. So, and I know on Saturday people are talking about making the voices heard against Jeff and the ownership. I've no issue with that. Whatever you need to do, but let's not forget to support the team as well, because we all want Wolves to stay in the Premier League, whether we hate it or not. We want the best of Wolverhampton Wanderers, and that is winning on Saturday afternoon. So you might not like Gary, you might not like Jeff, you might not like Matt, you might like Nocky, Tyler, or me, and I don't blame you. But the boys need our support on Saturday afternoon, and hopefully they'll get it. Moving on to Saturday afternoon. By the way, Mike, thank you for being part of the show, as always. Wolves play... who are we playing on Saturday afternoon? I've forgotten again. Wolves playing Ipswich Town on Saturday afternoon, 3 o'clock at Molineux. Nocky, this is absolutely enormous. But let's just briefly talk about the team. I quite liked pretty much most of what I saw, apart from the result at West Ham. It wasn't great, but it was, maybe our standards were low after Everton. Joe Gomez is suspended. You would imagine Andre maybe drops out for Tommy Doyle because of the kind of team we're playing, maybe not. But the important position for me is who comes in. I don't think you can have Tommy Doyle coming in to play the Joe Gomez position further up. I think we need to go at them. And whether that's I think it's more of a game for Geddes, or Geddes, however you say it, more of a game for him than it was at Everton. Agree?
Yeah, but
it's going to be Bellegarde, isn't it? You know it is.
I think he's going to bring Hwang in. I do think he's going to bring Hwang in. I think he's going to do something quite dramatic and try and shake it up a little bit. I think there'll be a bit of a change in formation. It's people say it's a massive game and it's a must-win. It's about our 12th must-win of the season, so it's one of those games for me. I'm not overly nervous about it because I think it's two of the three worst teams going at it. So I think there'll be goals in the game. I don't know what he's going to do. I mean, I think, does he go with a 3 at the back, or is he going to go to a 2 and try a bit of a 4-2-3-1? It's a really difficult one to know what he's going to do. At the moment, he just seems to be throwing formations up the wall and hope that something sticks. So I don't think he really knows himself what he's going to do.
I don't think we need to change that much.
If it was me, I'd think I'd go to a 4 at the back. Try and put a little bit of pressure on them. We're better going forward than we are at the back, so I'll try and put them under a little bit of pressure and back ourselves to dictate play, as opposed to worrying about what a championship team are going to do, which essentially is what they are. So I'd like to see us go with maybe a 4-2-3-1. Try to.
You mean to drop Doherty or Semedo then? Yeah, get that one down.
I think you have to.
I think you drop Doherty then. I think you drop Doherty and you play.
If it's a flat back 4, you obviously play Semedo, because it's not even a conversation.
Does Doherty play left back and Aït-Nouri further up?
Yeah, we need to dictate the game. If we're setting up to stifle Ipswich, then we've got bigger problems.
Yeah, we've got a bigger problem. Yeah,
we need to set up to go and win the game, and we do that by getting Cunha closer up to Larson and getting players to play around him, and let's dictate the play. Let's take the game to them and not worry about what they're going to do. My big concern is I feel like Liam Delap is all wrong for us defensively, the way he plays. I think we're going to have real problems with him, so I do expect them to score. But I just want to see us be brave, and if he's going to go out on your shield. Don't go out trying to not lose the game. Go out trying to win it. So I'd like to see us go for a 4-2-3-1 and just try and put them under pressure.
Tyler?
Yeah, I do agree with that. And I think Knock is right. For me, they're a championship team on paper with players. I think they've got a very good manager, and I think that's why they're sort of in games and they're doing well. And I think they'll cause us problems. But Knock is right. We can't defend anyway, so try and play to strengths. Try and get the extra forward on. Get Cunha, Ostran, Larson. Get a Guedes up there. Even a Bellegarde, even a Rodrigo, even a Forbes. I'll just get players up there and just try.
So do you think then, guys? If I don't think he'll do it, but if he went toe to toe, went 4-2-3-1, matched them up, and went gun for gun, we'd probably win the game like 4-3 or something, or 4-2, because our firepower really is better than theirs. Hopefully that's.
If we don't concede 3 penalties and 4 set pieces again, we've got a chance, haven't we?
That's just 7 then, so we need to score 8, yeah?
We're better than them all over the pitch. Every position, we're better than them. Every player,
apart from in the dugout,
he's better than them, yeah. So you've got to back yourself. You've got to back yourself to go at them and go and win the game. And if we get sucked into this, let's worry about what they're going to do mentality all the time. We're a better team. We've got better players. We've got Brazilian internationals. We've got players who at this level should be able to beat an Ipswich Town. So go man for man, go and take them on, but just be brave is all I want them to do. Just be brave. Just show a little bit of pride in the shirt, a little bit of bottle, and go and try and win a football match.
Great points, boys. Great points. You have been listening and watching to episode 113 of the Wolves Report with Mark Knott, Chris Toll, and myself, Ryan Lester. At this moment in time, live on the show, we have 1,340 live watchers. I appreciate you all joining. Whatever format you're watching or listening on, please subscribe, like, join, follow. Your support is much appreciated as we slowly grow the show. Gentlemen, it's time for predictions. Tyler, you said we'd find out what you thought. Now is the time. Tyler, your prediction for Wolverhampton Wanderers v Ipswich Town.
I said we'd win at Everton 3-1, so I'm not going to do any silly positive ones. I think it's just got a bit of a 1-1 all over it, really.
Yeah.
I'm hoping we can get a 2-1 win, so I'll say 2-1, and I'll say Strand Larsen, but you can see it being a draw, can't you? 2-1.
Come on, Nocky, spit it out. Ain't got all day.
Everything I've just said, completely ignore, because I think Gary will ignore me and go for a horrible system. So I'm going to go for a Desmond.
2-2, so go 1-1, 2-2.
I'm saying 2-1 for the record, Ryan.
Are you saying 2-1? Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't believe that, though, do you, son?
No.
Say it with your chest. Go for your 1-1.
Okay, then. So I'm going to go with Wolves 3, Ipswich 1, and Mateus Cunha. This has been episode 113 of the Wolves Report.
That's what he thinks of your prediction.
Tyler's gone. He's had enough, and who can blame him? Nocky, thank you as always for giving up your time. We look forward to joining you next week, probably on Monday or Tuesday. Of the Wolves.